I did want to touch on. You mentioned successful videos. We should talk about one of, in my opinion, one of the best Destiny videos ever made. Your masterpiece, your epic saga, which I think is, I think it stands as one of the, it's definitely a masterpiece as far as Destiny videos created, and I think it's easily one of the most successful. How long did it take you to make that? It was a very, very long time. I remember the process of you talking about this project you were working on.
So the scary thing is that there are multiple different sides to the production of that, which meant that, like, ultimately, it started about, say, I want to say it was about 4 months prior to release when I sat down with Brian Munkus, the fantastic Destiny artist.
Oh, yeah.
And I basically said, hey, I'm doing this thing. I would love to use a bunch of your art, and I'd love to commission you for new pieces. And I need to go ahead and give Munkus, like, a really big, warm thanks. He said, dude, for something like this, I would do it for free. And in his words, I would do it for the ability to get the exposure. And to me, that's like, what?
Sign of passion.
We it's partly out of passion, but it's also one of these things of, like, he saw more of an opportunity in being on the video.
It's all the big picture.
And just getting his artwork out there. And I you and me, I think, are both in that same mindset of, like, artists should be paid for their work. Cool. And so I went back and forth and I insisted a whole bunch. And, in the end, it was a very simple thing of, like, just go ahead and put the link to my store on it. And so, we put the link to his store at the very freaking top of the video, and we made sure that he was getting absolutely returns to his website and whatnot. And from what I can remember of his tweets and his wife's tweets, there were a whole bunch of different prints that they'd sold a few weeks afterwards. But yeah, they were working on that stuff for 4 months.
I remember.
Yeah, he was just squirreling away at all these different pieces of art for all the different relevant sections of the timeline of Destiny. For me, the actual process of writing it took, like, the entire process ended me with a script of, I'm trying to remember the exact numbers. I feel like it was about 30,000 combined words. There were 15 scripts. 15... Right, that's the first thing. Scripts.
How many individual pages? Scripts. We talking?
How many pages? Oh god, I think
I don't know.
I need to look all this up again. I know I had it at the time being for an interview, but, like, let's put it this way: the shortest one was Warmind, and that was about maybe 2 pages. The longest one was The Awoken, and that went on and on and on and on and on. And I think that one was like 10,000 words or something ridiculous.
So, like, 15 scripts. On the 15 different, basically, segments of the story you were going to talk about. Wow.
Exactly. And that was the only way that I could, like, wrap my head around it and not go completely insane and not turn it into one long, driveling Word document. Because I learned a lot from doing the 90-minute version as opposed to the 4-hour one. Like, the 90-minute version was all in one take, and it was 2.5 hours of audio recording on its own. Yeah. Right? And that in itself is scary, right? Like, that's an ordeal and task, and you can imagine how much fun I had editing the audio behind that.
So much fun, I can imagine. It must have been so joyous.
Yeah, but for this one, no, we broke it up into different sections. So 15-minute section, sorry, not 15 minutes, but like 15 different sections, all of them in varying different lengths, but all of them according to topics, right? And that meant that we could just basically create 15 different videos, and we could render each of those out individually. And then the final process was basically getting the intro and outro and then piecing each of the segments together. Because you got to remember, there's like a massive bulk to doing this too on the technical side, which is if you try to edit this whole thing in a single Premiere file, Premiere's not going to handle it. It's just going to crash.
I was going to think,
it's going to fall over and die.
Yeah, it's not possible. That much editing. The latest video I just worked on, it was struggling after. Once you start layering on so many effects and transitions and more layers and a 4-hour. So how does the actual production side? How did the video get made? What was the, I guess, split across multiple? And you basically stitched it together, didn't you? Out of multiple.
Yeah. So myself and my editor Tullis worked on individual sections. We split it up half by half. So I worked on everything up to, I want to say it was like the City Age or D1. And that was kind of vaguely where we split it at the halfway mark. And then we just had each of the video segments completed. Any segment that he finished, I went ahead and reviewed and sent back any necessary changes here or there. We looked through everything. He would critique my work from time to time too, and I'd be like, yeah, we should probably make those changes. And we had all of our different movie files for each of the 15 segments together. And then at the end, when we had all of them rendered and when they were all, compressed file sizes and whatnot, we took them and we just dumped them into one Premiere file and prayed that it would render.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So it was still technically all produced as like a complete video.
Yeah.
But, we it's kind of like, how do I best put it? It's kind of like working on a giant Lego model, like those big Death Star or Star Destroyer ones that they occasionally have. Like, yeah, you don't necessarily do the entire thing in one process. You work on sections of it. So maybe you'll work on like the bridge first, and then you'll work on like the underside, and then you'll work on like the over bit, and then you'll work on like the structural interior, and then you'll piece those bits together. Like, that's kind of what it felt like. So, I mean, just in terms of the pure video logistics, I think is the right term. Like, it was a massive undertaking, and overall the production time took about a month. Like I made 2 weeks worth of content in advance before I started so that we would have stuff going on over time.
Yeah.
And then thankfully Martin, who was making a bunch of stuff with T-Slape at the time being, had enough content going on to hold people over and to just keep everybody working on stuff and to just make sure that the channel had more content whilst I was getting this mammoth of a video
Exactly, because you got to make content while people appreciate the big 4-hour piece of content, but you also got to bear in mind the 4 months of creating it. You still got to be making actual unique creative content alongside it while making this mammoth of a video behind the scenes. So it's doubling up.
Yeah, like it's kind of like it's a war of attrition to a certain extent. Because ultimately you're not fighting with your viewers or anything, you're fighting with YouTube's algorithm. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to throw fuel into the machine so that it keeps running and so that your channel is still relevant in search engines whilst you're working on this massive project that you really hope is going to do well. And there are some things... Yeah, it definitely did, Like a year later, roughly, it's got like approaching 4 million views. The watch time is higher than any other video I've ever made, and I keep on going on about watch time because watch time nowadays is more important than viewership.
It is.
And just, yeah, like the entire freaking thing is a testament to the fact that people will enjoy long form content. But I think it's also like a testament to the fact that if you do put a ton of work in, you will get fantastic results.
I love that. That's exactly why I love just everything about the video. Like I said, it's one of the best videos in my opinion as a Destiny content creator. I can safely say, because as a content creator, I can appreciate it. I can appreciate the kind of effort that goes into it. I know exactly how much work it took, and I was obviously talking to you while you were making it. So yeah, I just remember, it's not the first time you did it. You did it the year before. You did another similar, the whole story so far up until that point last year.
Forsaken, yeah, basically.
And again, it's cool to see you always undertake these big projects instead of, it's thinking outside the box. It's making something creative. Instead of just making these videos, let me also make a massive 4-hour video, provide a service to the community. This is your entire lore in one place.
And keep in mind, I go into the deeper details and everything, but it's still surface depth, I don't go into the exact story beats behind what happens with, say, the Iron Lords or the exact story beats of the Books of Sorrow. I'm not waxing lyrical. I'm not going ahead.
There was plenty you could have added. There was stuff you cut out. How long do you reckon it could have been if you... it could have been 5, 6 hours. There was... It's 4 hours, but there could have been more, and I'm sure you recorded lots more that got cut.
Yeah, we cut certain sections down. I want to say it was something between... here's the thing. Our priority of this video was cutting as little as possible, right? And there were still things that we missed, and there's still a few things actually in the video that... amazingly enough we get wrong, but that's just based on pure hindsight. There's only ever small mistakes here and there, but it's one of these moments where we wanted to make sure we could tell as complete a story as possible. And so unlike the time prior to that, the 90-minute video where we basically said, screw the prehistory of Destiny, screw the ancient stuff, we're not touching Book of Sorrows, that's going to be a rabbit hole. This time we said, every rabbit hole we see, we dive. We go right down to the bottom when we explore Alice's Wonderland, and we find all the details of the story and we bring them to the surface.
I love it.
And we say, this is how far the rabbit hole goes, this is exactly what we did with that video. And even though we cut, I want to say it was about 20 minutes worth of stuff. It still ended up being like 3 hours and 57 minutes. So
and that's probably, you cut like 20 minutes of edited, produced stuff that you recorded. Like, as a YouTuber, the weird thing is that you over record. You record so much and then you cut things out, or I guess you should if you you want to not for brevity, but you often end up over recording and things. Just like in movies, you see bloopers, extended cuts, things that didn't make the final take. You have to cut for the sake of brevity.
Exactly. And I mean, it's in some instances for us, it wasn't necessarily just about brevity. It was one of these things of like, this is not a necessary detail to include, but relevant, it was partly one of those, relevant to the story, but also like, it was a bad recording of the audio on my part and we had to cut it because it was just a bunch of me waffling anyway and it couldn't be saved. Or alternatively, it was going to be something along the lines of like, hey, I got something wrong here. We need to edit these 30 seconds out of the video because this particular detail is just me expanding on detail that was, based on an incorrect tangent or something. So it's partly also about catching mistakes, like we did a lot of that, and like, going through and reviewing each section is important because of that. So like that stuff is really where all of the kind of cutting room stuff came in. So it's not as though there's like a bunch of deleted scenes out there, so to speak, for this video. It's more just a case of like, no, we just made the product better in that instance.
Yeah, just like improving it, whittling it down. I mean, I think it's
absolutely.
I think it's safe to say that video pretty much is the algorithm at this point. I mean, literally, I think I can watch any Destiny 1 or 2 video and it will probably be in the recommended. That's just how much YouTube loves it.